Hello, welcome back to Tales from the Car. This show is Joshua, and tonight we're recording episode 26. And the title of this episode, I guess, will be a brief rant on true crime today. I'll get into that in a little bit. And this is a Saturday, and it'll be released on Saturday morning. I'm going to try to get the show back on a Saturday schedule instead of the Mondays it's been on, and sometimes Sunday, but lately it's been Monday. So I apologize for the quick turnaround, but it's just more of a necessity rather than waiting, God, I guess it would be almost 10 or 11 days before I release another one. I'll try just do it in 4 days, get a little episode out, try to get all the stuff back on track, like I said. And let's get the show notes out of the way and get all this started. So, as always, if you're listening to the show, you know exactly how to find us. But if you have not already, please like, share, subscribe to the show, follow the show, whatever the verbiage is on the platform you're using. Please make sure you subscribe and follow. And we are available on all major podcast platforms. Find us on Apple, Spotify, and a number of others. If you'd like to contact the show, you can do so at the Facebook group. It is Tales from the Car Podcast. Search that in the bar. There'll also be a link down to the show notes for easier access to it, I guess. And you also email the show at mrpogo1972@gmail.com with any comments, criticism, complaints, all that good stuff, man. We'd love to hear from you. And what else? If you want to donate to the show, please do so at buymeacoffee.com/mrpogo1972 and the letter B. And like I said, all those links for all of that stuff will be down in the show notes. Look for it there, and help out if you can, or send us a word. Let us know how we're doing, good, bad, or otherwise. And also, as always, shout out to Joe at Elite Podcast, and I Can't Talk, as always, for the show art and everything. Greatly appreciate it, man. And I guess that's it for now. So I'm going to pause this here and be back in a moment with a discussion on true crime. Oh, my Lord. Hang on one sec. Hey, everybody. We are back here. Episode 26, a discussion on true crime. And I want to do this today after listening to the most recent episode on the Friday follow-up of the show Truth and Justice. And if you're not familiar with that show and you're a true crime fan, I highly, highly recommend it. Bob and his team over the years have done some pretty amazing work. They've actually helped get people that are wrongfully convicted out of prison. Ed Ates is one of them. And, and Kenny, I forget his last name. But the thing about Kenny was, like, when they they paroled him. It's not that his whole conviction and what he ended up spending a lot of time in prison for is completely ridiculous. And you'd have to go back and listen to it, because I couldn't possibly explain it properly. I don't remember all the details. But when they finally paroled him like a year or two ago, they were reading transcripts of the podcast at the parole hearing. So, like, they were like, wait a minute, like, this is all this shit that's going on, and the parole board, made the decision to free him after all these years and do what was right, really. But he's been around for a long time. He's been around since 2016, when Serial had just ended, and he was doing the show called, well, actually the same show is called The Serial Dynasty. I've been listening to it that long. Like, they've, he's done some pretty amazing stuff, and he, looked at cases like the Adnan Syed mess, And he did a lot of investigation and shit on that like a lot of people didn't do. And his work, like pointing the finger at at Hae-Min Lee's boyfriend at the time was not Adnan, was pretty remarkable because like they never really looked into the guy, and there's all kinds of like weird shit going on with him. But my recommendation is you listen to Serial Undisclosed in the early days of Truth and Justice, and you'll get a better understanding of that. It's like, it's a humongous rabbit hole that it would take hours to fucking really do it any justice. So we're just going to skip over that. But I highly recommend the case, and you understand what's going on in the fucked up city of Baltimore. And it's all you gotta know. But anyway, so I was listening to the show, and like this season they are doing a wrongful conviction case in Michigan for a kid named Jody, who actually was, well, I'm not gonna get into the whole thing. I don't think I can explain it right, but like Jody was convicted of murdering a kid named DeMario. So and you listen to the show and they go into the explanation, and it's 6 episodes in, so this season's not that far along. You can catch up with it pretty quickly. The guy was shot like 6 times, and they somehow pinned it on Jody because they said that they had this report from a witness who said that DeMario, with his dying breath, said that, you know, he said Jody did this to me. And so they went with that, but there's so much bullshit and insanity that's going along with this. It's completely wrong. But the problem is that they believe that Jody killed this kid because he was going to testify against him at a trial for this robbery that occurred. He was robbed. The robbery thing, I'd like to be able to explain that better. But if you listen to episode 5 of this season of Truth and Justice, which is season, I believe it's 16, right? Or maybe it's 15. I got this all wrong. But if you listen to that season and you get to episode 5, listen to Jody's explanation of the whole robbery, and if you can make sense of it in any way, shape, or form, because I listened to it. Someone said, I listened to it 3 times, and now I understand it. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just don't have that much time in the day. It's just, I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, and I don't know if it would be any better if I listened to it 3 times. So the question comes down to, well, was Jody actually involved in the robbery, and what exactly happened? And there's all these details that he gives that just seem unnecessary, don't make any sense. But, you know, if he was at least there when the robbery took place, if he didn't actually take part in it. Supposedly he killed this kid, went back and killed the kid over, whether or not he would testify. And speaking of that whole night with his supposed eyewitness confession, or not confession, but DeMario on his with his dying breath saying, Jody did this. Actually, Jody couldn't have been there because he was at work, and they found his time card, and there's all this evidence pointing to that. So there's it's pretty obvious he wasn't even there, and the cops made up all this shit. There's all these reports missing. The defense file is different than the prosecution file. It's fucking crazy. But they were doing the Friday follow-up where they discuss the show, and they take listener questions and stuff like that. And they film these live. Actually, they do film it, and it appears on YouTube. And you can find all the information out, the Truth and Justice Facebook page and stuff like that. But they're kind of fun to watch, and they're interesting because there's stuff that And a lot of times there's stuff they discuss on there that doesn't actually make it on the show because you have to edit for time and whatever. But it's like I've watched a couple of them, and they usually go for a couple hours, and then the show's cut down to like an hour. So it's definitely worth checking out. But, so they do the Friday follow-up, and what really irked me was that they were, I think they didn't read the question, but there was people in the YouTube chat, because you can ask questions through the YouTube chat, so there's people in the YouTube chat, you know, saying things like, you know, I'm not going to support Jody, you know, if he had taken part in this robbery and stuff like that. But I think what people lose sight of, and they I'm not sure if they did a very good job of explaining this. I guess they don't want to piss anybody off, but like what it comes down to is, you know, what people think, I think people need to realize is like, even if you're a criminal, and actually, you know, Jody doesn't even try to hide the fact or anything like that. He talks about it. I guess he can't, but like, you know, like he had a criminal history, and so did DeMario, the young man who lost his life, and some other people involved in this. It wasn't like their first time ever robbing somebody. But what happens is people are, I don't know, you know, quick to judge isn't even the right word. I don't know what the right term for it is. But what happens is, anyway, what happens is there are people in the chat, and like I said, they're saying like, oh, I don't want to support this. I don't want, you know, who's involved in the robbery, and, you know, and blah, 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 blah. And really, that's all fine and good, but the only problem with that is that you're losing sight of the fact that this kid, and now he's not even a kid, he's been there, I think he's like been in jail for like 20 years or prison. But he's not really a kid anymore, but the problem is, like, the young man, you know, I don't know. Like it's like I said, it's so hard to tell if he was actually there helping rob the guy or not. I don't know. It's like but either way, let's just say hypothetically that he did actually participate in the robbery, and he wasn't just there trying to defuse the situation as he claims. And I say that because I couldn't tell you what the fuck happened. His explanation made no sense to me. And he threw in all these details that this just seemed unnecessary. You know, and actually it's funny too, because I could swear like there's a saying that says like, the more convoluted the story is, the bigger the lie it is, or something like that. I swear that's a saying. So that's what it felt like to me. But I don't know, you know, but I don't care. Like, I care because I spent like an hour or so of my time trying to listen to this show and figure out what the fuck is going on. And I couldn't. So let's say, you know, we'll leave it hypothetical. Like, he participated in the robbery. Well, you know, that's unfortunate and shitty. But the important thing I think people are losing sight of, it seems, is like, okay, like, even if he did participate in the robbery, that's not why we're here. You know what I mean? It's why we're here is to figure out, like, you know, did he commit the murder or not, or did he participate in the murder? Because they think there was more than one shooter or more than one person that was there, you know, that chased him into this building, chased DeMario into this building, you know, and then gunned him down in the stairway. So was Jody there or not? I don't know. That's the whole debate. And there's a lot of evidence, you know, this the fact that he worked that night, and there's some weird shit that goes on with the witnesses and all this other stuff that really seems to point to the fact that he wasn't there. It had nothing to do with this. Now, why DeMario was murdered is up for debate too, but I mean, I don't know if they haven't discussed like why maybe he was murdered, you know, And who knows if they can go into that. I don't know if that's even relevant to any of this. But again, you're not litigating the robbery. The people are forgetting that you're litigating, or relitigating, whatever the word might be, the murder. And did, Jody participate or actually commit it? So if you're gonna and that's the crux of this whole thing. So if you're backing out because he might have robbed somebody, well then, you're actually in the wrong, because that doesn't matter. That's not the problem. The problem is the guy's in jail for a murder he didn't commit. So if you have a problem with him doing the murder, that's fine. But if you're like, oh, I'm not going to support this person and trying to get them out of jail because they robbed somebody, then, you're more part of the problem on a small level anyway than you are any kind of help. Because if you go to jail for killing somebody but you didn't do it, who the fuck cares if you robbed 20 people before that? The problem at the end of the day is you're there for a murder you didn't commit. And I think people lose sight of that for some reason. I don't even know how. Maybe it got resolved. I don't know. I haven't been on the fan page today, so I've not seen what chaos might be ensuing from that, because I'd be surprised if somebody didn't address that. Why are you people, not giving this guy your support because he robbed somebody when that has nothing to do with the rest of it. Anyway. But I guess that's the end of my rant. But I highly recommend those shows. Like I said, I don't usually plug a lot of other people's shows, but if you like true crime and you want to hear about wrongful convictions and fucked up stuff, I highly recommend Truth and Justice. And if you've never heard Serial, go back and listen to Serial. And after you get done with Serial, start listening to Truth and Justice and Undisclosed, at least the first seasons. Both those shows, Undisclosed, I guess it's been 2 years ago, actually ceased production. And, which is a shame, because that show is amazing. So I highly recommend you listen to every bit of that. And Jesus Christ, and definitely, like I said, and then they have a companion series, the Proof podcast with Susan Simpson from Undisclosed and Jacinda Davis, who's a TV producer. I forget what show she does, but they do amazing work. Season 1, they actually managed to overturn the convictions, or their work helped overturn the convictions of the 2 guys that were in prison from season 1. In season 2 with Jake Silva and Ty Lopes and the murder of Renee Ramos. Forgive me on the pronunciation of her last name. It's Ramos. It's like tomato. People pronounce it both ways. But that's a real horrible story, because Ty Lopes was actually murdered in prison. He didn't die in prison. Natural causes, that would have been bad enough. He was actually murdered in prison. And Jake was almost murdered in prison. And he survived this attack and actually is now suffering a lot of medical issues because of that. And it's just a terrible situation. So even if they finally get all that shit straightened out and they get justice for Renee, it's kind of be bittersweet, because Ty's not actually there to benefit from this. It's horrible. But anyway, that's my recommendations for the week, if you're so inclined. But that is going to wrap it up for the week. And let's just go get the ending show notes out of the way and call this a night. So As always, man, let me tell you, if you're still listening to the show and you've gotten this far, know that you are loved and appreciated. And as I say this all the time, but it's the truth. Like the number of downloads and listens that we've had, I guess listens and downloads are the same thing, and even the subscribers out there, I think the number's low that I could see. I don't know if it's higher and the analytics are wrong. I can't even tell you. Just to go off on a rant, Apple in their analytics basically show that nobody on Apple's listened to the show for the last 2 weeks. So I don't know what the hell's going on with that. But I know you people are out there. I know you're listening. So please know you're loved and appreciated. And as always, please like and follow, subscribe to the show, whatever the verbiage is on whatever platform you're using. If you're using Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Castro, Podguru, iHeart, Amazon, all that stuff, give it a like, a follow, and give us a 5-star review. All that is free. It helps out the show if you're listening every week, or maybe not every week, or listening often enough, man. It definitely helps us out, and we really appreciate it. And what else? So if you want to contact the show, definitely hit us up at Tales from the Car Podcast on Facebook. Send a request in to join the group, and we'll get all that taken care of. You can email the show as always at mrpogo1972@gmail.com, and welcome any comments, criticisms, complaints, whatever you want to send along. It's all good. I don't get offended that easily. And what else? So if you like to donate to the show, my coffee addiction, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/MrPogo1972 and the letter B. And as always, the links to all those things will be down in the show notes below. Please help out, and et cetera, if you can. I said that. It's late and I'm tired. It's been a long day. But that wraps it up, and I hope if wherever you are in the world, I hope you've had a good day. And thanks also to especially special thanks and shout out to all the international listeners. I love that even more. All you guys in America, I love you too, but it's pretty awesome to see people from overseas, no matter where it is, listening to the show. And if you're on the East Coast, man, I hope and you got hit with the hurricane mess, I hope to God, you didn't suffer too much damage or anything. I haven't seen any reports of anything really bad. We just got some rain yesterday, and rained pretty much all day. And it got so hot today, it's so funny. It was so hot and disgustingly humid today that all the rain that was on the ground pretty much this morning, that was there from like yesterday, being Thursday, it pretty much dried up by tonight. That's the beauty of global warming or whatever. But anyway, man, until next week, sorry about the quick turnaround, but I'm trying to get this show back on track for Fridays or Saturdays. Anyway, if you're still listening, thanks again. Thanks as always. And have a good week. Have a good rest of your weekend. Love you guys. And peace out.